Dum, dum, dum. The generation next. Oh,
What?
All right, now are we ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So after his rookie season, Magic Johnson went into the 80-81 season with the championship, but then a month into the season, he gets an injury that takes him out for 45 games. So the 80-81 season, they make it to the playoffs, but they lose in the first round to the Rockets. So nothing really happens in Magic's sophomore year in the NBA.
And that's before Akeem. Who's even on that Rockets team? I don't even know. It doesn't. It's not important. Continue.
yeah.
So then after that, we get to the 81-82 season where Magic makes it through the whole season and makes it again to the finals in the 81-82 playoffs.
One thing before we even start about the finals, I just want to mention how ass are these teams that he's facing? Because it looks like he swept through the 82 Western Conference and pretty much beat most of the teams by a pretty large margin. So I think that matters towards bringing up his legacy. But because he beats the Phoenix Suns, who are Barkley is not there yet.
Oh, and this
is Dennis Johnson, huh?
And this is when the bye started. I know you wanted to talk about that.
Yeah, that was another thing. Like when we're talking about his greatness and his, obviously he went to 9 finals, and we're going to talk about each of them. But does that take away from it a little? Does having a bye for what 3 out of those? No, 3 out of those 4, I guess, years, and 3 out of his finals runs, because he went to the finals every single year, I think.
So what's your
besides that injury year? So I'm saying, is that does not having to play that extra series get him to pretty much be fresh and healthy for the semifinals? Is that because look, he's sweeping the Spurs, like he swept the Suns in the semifinals easily. They beat them the first 2 games by almost 20. So I'm looking at it as, is that partially because of the bye help, or because people like that we look at now who went to the finals multiple years, like a LeBron James, he didn't have that. He had to go through a 7-game final series. I mean, first round series that adds more minutes and miles on his legs.
All right. If I change sports for a second, does it fuck with Tom Brady's legacy?
No, but it's been a thing forever.
And if we're playing by context, it definitely didn't. To the point that I never heard of that until doing research for the podcast. Really, until you're telling me about it.
Yeah.
That the buys were a thing. No one ever talks about that, but
think about like all the first round upsets we've seen.
I'd argue he had to win 57 games in this season, and usually he's a 60 win. Like he's got to get first place to get that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's not like he's getting the bye because he's Magic fucking Johnson.
But are we also saying it's a weak Western Conference? So you got a weak Western Conference. You automatically getting a week off easily, probably 2 weeks. I don't know how the NBA was doing things before, because I know now the NBA kind of gives them a week, and then
it's only a 3-game series back then, so probably not 2 weeks, probably a week.
Probably a week. So you're getting a fresh set of legs, a week off, and if there's any knickknacks or anything, like if you have a little sprained ankle or tweak, like that shit doesn't matter, because you got a whole week off now. You're gonna be fresh for the semifinals, where other people have to play those minutes, and most likely is gonna be a team that's lesser than whatever Magic's team was anyways. But I'm just looking at it as he had a very weak conference, And then also I mean, I didn't mention it with Bird. I probably should have, but I mean, Bird also was in the tougher conference. So no matter what, his road to the finals was way harder than Magic's all the time.
Well, he always had to go through Philly, and he played Philly. They played Philly. They were in the same division, so.
Yeah.
But,
so you played Philly at least 11 times a year.
But
maybe.
they still.
I mean, sorry, at most 11 times a year. At least 8 times a year.
I think it would matter more if Magic didn't end up beating most of these guys.
Yeah, I mean, that's how you kind of shut that shit up. Is if you beat me, then you can't say shit. You can't mention any of this shit. Like you beat
that's
me,
why
and
we
that's
say
it. Like
LeBron, because he fucking never wins.
Yeah,
he beats the East.
And we'll talk about LeBron. Don't worry. Break that little motherfucker down.
He gets to the finals and then he takes L's. So like
it was just for me. It was just a question I wanted to ask, and I don't think anyone's ever brought that up. And I was looking at it literally yesterday, and I was like, why don't I see first round matchups? And I'm like, was there like a rule or something? So I went and looked it up, and I saw buys were a thing at the time. So first and second seed always received the buys, just like the NFL now. And then they switched it to 3 rounds, then 5. I mean 3 game series, then 5 game series, and then in 2005, 4 or 5, they switched it to 7 game series. So I just thought that was interesting.
I never understood. Like, I'm so happy that it's all 7 game series now. I've heard rumors that they want to go back
because a lot of people think like some of these series don't make sense. Like, what's the point of seeing, like, I don't know who the fuck, if the Phoenix Suns make it and go against the Lakers and the Lakers dog walk the shit out of them. Like, there's no point of watching this games, and it's just a waste of time.
No, but fuck all that, because in our league, it's not like that. Damian Lillard is a legend because of what he does in round 1.
That's a fact.
This guy gets so much praise for buzzer beaters on the Thunder in round 1.
But his buzzer beaters, though, I know this is totally out of subject, out of context, or it doesn't fucking matter. But hitting the buzzer beating shot, game 7 of a series, and
that doesn't happen in your world if you take the games away. Is my point.
I know, but I'm just I'm. Some of them don't. A lot of the whole thing is how many series first round series have you watched? Probably like 400. And how many of those do you get? Like 5? Like
no, they're great. When we were in college, like in
I guess Kobe had that first round.
2012, like we got some of the best round. Vince Carter's got a buzzer beater in round 1 when he was playing for the Mavericks against the Spurs. That was awesome. Some of my best memories of
Kobe's like legendary buzzer beater versus Phoenix was in the first round.
You were saying? Wait, what? Say that again.
My bad. Kobe's legendary buzzer beater against Phoenix was in the first round.
What I'm saying, this shit matters. Fucking, I'm so happy they changed.
My goat to my God. He did that. So I agree with you, Russell. I agree. All right, so back to the Magic.
All right.
Oh man.
Fucking all right.
But he did have some ass teams that he was facing. I looked at that Phoenix team, and it only had Dennis Johnson pretty much, and then that San Antonio team only had George Gervin.
Yeah,
so I don't know.
No, I
get ass teams he was playing.
No, I get that part, but I get it's more like
my thing. Yeah,
if he doesn't beat the East Coast teams when he gets there, then it's a different conversation. And look,
but it's still one series though, bro. That matters. Like you only facing one. You're not going through the pounding, and that's the thing that I always argued with Kobe and LeBron. And I'm not gonna just because I like Magic, I can't not mention it. Having that easy route. Like look at he played 8 games when I don't know how many games Philly played to get to the finals. 8 games had pretty easy games. I'm sure 4 out of those 8 games were they won by double digits. So he probably sat out some of those at some points of those games where it might have been blowouts and then the team got some gimme points. So you got 8 games that you played, swept them all, and 4 of those games were won pretty decisively. So you got fresh ass legs, bro. You literally are playing with the freshest legs possible, and then going against a Philly team who had to go through freaking Detroit. I don't know if Detroit was crazy back then, but because I didn't look it up, but like like I know they went through Boston. They had to go through Boston, so it's like you're going against tougher opponents. So and that breaks you down.
The East was definitely tougher than the West. Not denying that. All I'm saying is, I think you're thinking about this because of what we do with LeBron now, because we always say that about LeBron. But the problem is, the reason why we say that is because teams in the Western Conference that we don't expect to beat LeBron. That doesn't happen as often.
I disagree. Because I say it before the series, and I think one thing, a lot of the people bring this shit up because people are Jordan cocksuckers, and they don't want to give LeBron the props for it, which I'm one of those people, by the way. So fuck LeBron. But you got to do it just because you like Magic. You can't disregard that fact, because he literally has the same pretty much situation as LeBron. Because you look at that dominance, and then I'm like, okay, he was dominant. They were a great Lakers team, so I could understand why they'd win almost every year. But then it's like, all right, are you going against the Phoenix Suns? Who the fuck? I had to think, and I'm like, who the fuck did Phoenix have at the time? I was like, was Barkley there? I'm like, no, he definitely didn't get drafted then. I'm like, Dennis fucking Johnson. Okay. and then I go and I'm like, San Antonio, and I'm like, I don't think this dude was there. The fucking guy you hate, David Robinson. I was like, I'm pretty sure David Robinson wasn't there, because I'm sure he was much later. And then I look, I'm like, all right, George Gervin. And I'm like, who the fuck else? Like, you face no one. I'm like, so you get to the Philadelphia series, and then it's like, all right, now you facing a good opponent, but it's like you just dog walked everybody because it was so easy. So that matters. Like, even though you won against that team pretty handily, I mean, they both times against Philly, they beat them in 6 games. So, and when you beat someone twice, that means you're better than them.
Hold on, because they got them in it, because the Sixers got them in '83 when Moses came and dominated.
Okay.
And it was Moses and Dr. J.
Yeah.
They got them in '83. So they didn't get them. They didn't get them every single time they played.
Yeah, but I mean, if you beating them most of the times, like a lot of the times, if you're facing people in 7-game series, the nice thing about basketball is a lot of the times in 7-game series, unless there's injury, the better team wins.
Yeah.
But I think those little things should matter too, because like, even though it's not everything, because everyone's still playing the game and going through the motions, and like people are probably not injured, you probably have them at full health and stuff, but playing all those extra minutes and playing against harder opponents does matter. Like, I feel like that you could get a little tweak during the end of a game 5, and then you finish them off in game 6, and now you have a little nagging injury going into the finals. When you sweeping everybody pretty handily, you're not gonna be in the freaking fourth quarter as much. You're not gonna, you're gonna have. And at that time, I don't know what the pace was like during those years. We could look it up. But if the pace was pretty slow or whatever, you up by 19, you're not losing that game. You know what I mean? So it's like you have a lot of time on the bench where you're just chilling, putting your feet up, relaxing. Magic was probably rubbing his balls all over everybody, saying, "Yo, we just lose." So that shit matters. Like, to me, that's something that that's something that should be mentioned when you talk about his dominance. You should talk about certain things that he had advantages of, because I think when people start talking about LeBron or like, people think Kobe's really great because he went to the finals 7 times in the West, in a very tough conference, during a tough era. So like that, like if you're gonna mention like LeBron going to the finals 8 times and saying, "Oh well, he was in the weakest conference at the time." You got to mention Magic, who was in a weak ass conference, and
Yeah, but
that's pretty.
one more time for the people at home. Who has more championships in that situation?
Yeah.
All right.
And I,
that's it.
my whole thing is you're never gonna have an argument
That's all I gotta say.
that. Like
all I gotta say.
I don't give a fuck. But I'm just saying that stuff. Like if you bring it up with LeBron, you gotta bring it up with Magic too. Like in that.
I don't disagree with you. I think Magic's better and has more rings, and his legacy is proven as such. But LeBron's cement is still wet. So
I mean, I think
like that's the thing. Magic at the beginning of his career was looked at worse, but when we get to the end of his career, you're going to see like he turns it around and ends up being the best player of the '80s and takes it from Larry. So like we'll see as time moves on here.
And to be Robin for most of that decade, pretty much, and then later on, everyone's like, you know, that guy was probably like the greatest at that time. Like that's crazy because I'm sure at the time people were like, well, you got Kareem, what do you expect? Like, yeah, I'm sure people were like disrespecting him in that sense. Because I could imagine, because I know people were doing it with Kobe, so they had to be doing it with Magic.
I'd say around this time that we're talking about right here in 82, 83, I would say that, and like up until probably 85, I would say that definitively people said Bird was better. And then by the time we get to, what do you call it? By the time we get to the end of the latter half of the 80s, then we're looking at Magic completely dominating, collecting more MVPs, and then staying in the finals and getting championships done and just outlasting Bird.
Yeah.
And then getting it to a point where you get to a point where his peak is just longer. And so I don't know. I get what you're saying.
It's about,
I think Magic, because we got the full career, I can say with certainty, he lost those finals, but he also beat those guys too. Like, even if you're going to say he was 5-4 in the finals, which is another thing you can say. Yeah. 9 tries, 5-4.
My thing is, I think
outside of Jordan, he got all those guys back.
Yeah. That is very true.
Which I don't know if everybody that's kind of
not a lot of people get to do that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's crazy. That's crazy. He's like, I'm gonna spin the block. Like that's pretty much what he said. I'm spinning the block, and we're gonna do this again. I'm gonna fuck you up. That's literally what he does. So I mean, that you gotta respect it.
And they trained all summer for it too.
Yeah,
crazy.
And I wasn't trying to. I'm definitely, because I think Magic is easily the greatest point guard like ever, and I think he's a top 5 greatest player ever. So it's not. I'm not taking away from that, but I think it's something that has to be spoken about whenever you're talking about Magic's career, because that should be mentioned. Even though, I mean, because your point matters a lot. He had a weak conference, but then he had to go through the tough conference and beat those guys.
Yeah,
people don't do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, fuck them. I'm not here for those people.
No. I was saying people. I was saying people don't usually do that. Like if we're having that argument, it's pretty much the LeBron thing. Like you would lose into these Western Conference guys that we weren't expected to lose to, and Magic, it was like we probably are assuming that you might lose the series or something because you're going against a tougher team from a tougher conference, and he was like, nah, I'm whooping these niggas' asses. All facts.